Okay, I'm going to show you a triangular method of trying to remember some mnemonics for percentage formulas. The most common one that we use can be used by remembering Pisa, the Tower of Pisa, or that there's a lot of maths tests done all over the world and they're called the Pisa tests. So it looks like a little I here, but it's actually a percentage sign. So what do we mean here then? Well, we write the first letter at the top of our triangle, P. Then we work downwards. So here we have percentage S and A. Between these two, up top and bottom, there's a dividing sign. And between the two bottom terms, there's a multiplication sign. So how do we interpret this formula? Well, what we mean here is actually the percentage share, or the percentage of anything, can be described as the part that we've been given some information about divided by everything, all of it, times 100%. So if we know, for example, here is a little block of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little rectangles. Assume that they're all the same size. And 2 of these are shaded. And the question could say, what percentage of the blocks are shaded? Well, we would use this formula that the percentage share, that will in our case be percentage shaded, is the same as the number of parts that are shaded, 1, 2, 2 parts are shaded, divided by all of the parts. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts, multiplied by 100% to change it into percentage. So 2/5 is a fraction form, is a decimal, and we multiply it by 100% to change it into percentage. Well, the first thing to do when we're changing a fraction to a percentage is often to change it to decimal form. So we divide 2 by 5 using short division. 2 is the same as 2.0. 2 divided by 5 goes 0 times, and all of those 2 are left over to the next number. Before we divide after the decimal, we have to put in our decimal point. And now we do 20 divided by 5, and that's 4. So the percentage shaded is the same as 0.4 times 100%. 0.4 times 100, we have 2 zeros here, so we have to consider that our decimal point, once we multiply it by 10, would move from 0.4 to 4. And if we multiplied it by 100, it would be in another position that it would move one more place to the right. 4 times 10 would be 40. So 2 zeros moves the decimal point 2 places to the right. So we get is equal to 40%. So this is one way that we would be able to use the percentage formula, and I will do some more questions on that afterwards, so I'll explain how otherwise you could use this formula. So this is our standard formula. Percentage share is the part that we're interested in divided by all of it times 100%, always. But another very common formula in percentage is when they're asking for percentage change. So this one is percentage change. And we can do that thinking of, I don't know if you remember the Star Wars figure, but there's C3PO. So C3PO, and here we have, instead of the 3, we have our little percentage sign again, C-P-O. Between the C and the PO, there's a divide sign, and between the P and the O, there's a little multiply sign, exactly as we had in this one here. Okay, how do we get the formula then? When we're interested in this one down here, we'll start with that one. Percentage equals, cover it with our finger, this is the one we're trying to work out, equals the change C for change, divided by the original, times 100% to turn it into percentage. Okay, so can we have an example here? Well, we could say that we had 25 members of a club, year 1, and then we had 35 members, year 2. What is the percentage increase in members? So here we have a typical formula for using percentage change. We have our formula here, the percentage change, so we can write here, percentage change is going to be the change in members divided by the original number of members times 100%. The change in members, well, we went from 25 to 35, so that we're looking for the difference here. 35 minus 25 divided by the original, which is what we had from the beginning, and we had 25 from the beginning. So here you always have to think of what were we supposed to compare it with. Whatever we were supposed to compare it with is the number that goes on the bottom. And then we always have to, this will give us a fraction or a decimal answer here. To change it into percent, we need to multiply it by 100% and work with it in percentage form. 35 minus 25 is 10. So we get 10 divided by the original, which was 25, multiplied by 100%. So you might remember that 25 goes 4 times into 100. 25 plus 25 is 50, plus 25 is 75, plus 25 is 100. So our 25 times table gives us that 100 divided by 25 is the same as 4. So we would get 10 times 4. We still got our percentage sign, which would be 40%. And then we would finally answer the question, the number of members increased by 40%. And then we are ready. And of course these multiply signs should be little X's, mixing it up here with the Swedish. Okay, so now we've got two formulas, the two most common formulas, where we have that the percentage share is the part divided by all of it times 100. Any percentage change, increase or decrease in price, is the difference in price, the change between the two values, divided by the original, or the one you're comparing it with, times 100%. So we've got PISA, we've got C3PO, and our final one is actually to do with interest rates. And interest rates is something that if you borrow money from a bank, you have to pay them back money in terms of interest, or if you put your money into their bank, they actually pay you some money that we call interest. And that can be quite irksome. Irksome is a very old-fashioned word, and it's actually, the word irk means annoying. So until you get used to these calculations, it can be quite irksome, it can be quite annoying. So we start by writing in irk in exactly the same way that we have with the other ones. Start the top middle and then go down IRK. And what does that mean then? Well, it means that if we want to try and work out what the interest rate is in percent, cover it over again with our hand. Interest rate in percent is the amount of interest we pay that's I here, divided by the amount of capital we borrowed, the amount of money we either borrowed or we put into the bank account, times 100%. And this formula always works. So if we put 10,000 kronas into bank account, and it stayed there for a whole year, and then they paid us 10,200 kroners, and we wonder what was the actual interest rate that they gave us. Well, we would use our formula here, interest rate in percent is the amount of interest that we received divided by the capital times 100%. So if we put in 10,000 and we got 10,200 kroners out, the amount of interest we received is the difference between these two, 10,200 minus 10,000. So we received interest of 200 kroners. We divide that by the amount of capital we had, and that was 10,000 kroners. And then we multiply that by 100%, and we can work out what the interest rate was. We can see we've got an awful lot of zeros here, so we can cancel those two zeros with 2 down there in the... If you're going to cancel zeros, you have to cancel the right number of zeros from the denominator and the numerator, and it can only be zeros actually at the end. And then we have 2 zeros here that can cancel with 2 zeros there. Kroners cancels with krona, so we don't have any amounts left, but we do have one more sign. So the only thing we've got left is 2 times 1 divided by 1. So it's actually an interest rate of 2%. So the interest rate that the bank offered us for taking care of our money for a year was that they paid us 2% of our capital. If you need to borrow money from a bank, you need to pay a lot more interest back than that. But here are 3 ways of using these formulas in fairly simple ways. Let's say, for example, that a question actually gives you, wants you to find out what the number of parts were, and you would just put your finger over parts. The number of parts would be the percentage share times all of it. So this is why these triangles are actually quite useful. If they wanted you to work out what the original price was, if they gave you the change and the percentage change, then you would put your finger over original and you'd divide change by the percentage change, and that would give you your original price. If they gave you the amount of interest and the interest rate, and they asked you to work out the capital, you would put your finger over the letter K, and you would see that the capital is the amount of interest you pay divided by, under the divide line, the actual interest rate. And I'll give some more examples of these type of questions in more videos. But good luck with working with percentage changes. It takes a bit of a while to get used to, but they're very, very useful for the rest of your mathematical careers, actually. Good luck.